Over 20 years ago, I watched the headlamps of my firefighter and captain progress up this hill on a brush fire. Within seconds, they disappeared behind a wall of fire, and I was convinced they were dead. This is my story. I was assigned to Engine 30 as the engineer. I was working with my normal crew, my normal captain, and my normal firefighter. We were dispatched to a brush fire off of Via Merida behind the high school, behind Westlake High. The first arriving crews attacked the fire from Via Merida. The fire was in a drainage, and they were laying line down into the drainage and up the flanks. We were directed to come to the parking lot above the football stadium. Now, it was a pretty unremarkable night. It was a midsummer evening. It had just gotten dark, so around 8 o'clock. So it was that time when the wind is still and calm. It wasn't overly hot. In fact, it had been very mild temperatures all day, and it wasn't dry. It was our typical humidity. Nothing remarkable about it at all. A very regular night. And so we came up here, and as we staged, the captain said, "I'm going to take the firefighter, and we're going to pull hose line to the top of the ridge." We could see the fire had stalled up on the ridge behind me. And so we could see it from this location. It's not here anymore, but there used to be a footpath that ran along this slope and up to the top. So the captain decided to take dry hose up until he got close to the fire, and then he said he would contact me to charge the line. So they progressed up. It wasn't that far, and it was pretty quick when they got back to me and said, "Charge the line." I was setting up, for a water shuttle. They said another engine was going to come and tank us water. The captain gets on the radio, says, "Engine 30, give me water." I give him water, and I run around the other side of the engine to make sure there's no kinks in the line going up. I look, there's no kinks. I'm pulling out the kinks. I look up, and it goes from no fire, except at the top of the hill, to fire completely below them. The fire had hooked around the other side of this ridge, and it had also spotted into the drainage below them. And I remember getting on the radio going, "Hey, Captain, you've got fire below you." And then I remember changing and adding, "You've got a lot of fire below you," because it went from a small spot to complete flame across this entire drainage. And they disappear completely. I can't see them. All I see is fire. Where I once could see their headlamps moving up the hill, all I see now is fire. About the same time, the hose line burns through because my engine throttles up, because now it's basically just pumping an open butt as it burned through the line. I don't remember shutting the line down, but I must have. All I remember doing is trying to get on the radio and contact them. And I'm calling them on the radio, which seemed like an eternity, and it probably wasn't. But it seemed like forever. And I want to add that this was a time in our department and in wildland firefighting where we didn't drop and we didn't have aircraft working after dark. As soon as dark came, the aircraft left. So there were no helicopters. There was no helicopter to call. In fact, I didn't even know who to call division-wise, because I don't think we were assigned to a division. We were up here all by ourselves. Everyone else was on the far side of the hill, actually attacking the main body of fire. So they disappear. And what's crazy is that so much stuff is going through my head, and like I said, it seemed like it was forever. But I remembered the IRPG and the common denominators of fatal fires. And I remember them clicking in my head. Relatively small fires or deceptively quiet areas of large fires. Check. Relatively light fuels such as grass and light brush. Check. When fire responds to topographical conditions and runs uphill. Check. So that's 3 of the 5. I remember thinking about all the lessons about that and how I was actually witnessing it firsthand as my crew is overrun by fire. So they do get back in touch with me, and they say, "Hey, we're coming down the hill." They get down to me, and I ask them, "What happened? What did you do?" And they go, "Well, we had no water. We abandoned the line. So we continued up to where the fire was, and we jumped through the flame front and into the black." Now think about that. Jumping through the flame front usually never works out well. There's countless stories of firefighters killed and disfigured going through flame fronts. The only reason it even worked and they didn't get burned is the fact that when the fire got to the top of the hill, because there was no weather and the fuel was light, it stalled out. And so it was burning up there for a little while. So everything behind it burned up, and it was just a little bit burning at the top because, again, it stalled up because of topography. We know that normally doesn't work. In this case, we got lucky, but I want to stress that I would never use this as an example of when it went right, because what did happen was everything went horribly wrong, and we got incredibly lucky. There's lessons learned on every call we go on, even the lift assist. You have to be learning every day. Obviously, on this incident, there's a ton of lessons learned. And I hope I encourage you to watch the video and to talk as a crew on the things you think we did right and the things you think we did wrong, and learn from them. I could do a whole separate video on the ones I think. I'll just high level and just add a couple. One is complacency. It's obvious we were complacent on this. We didn't expect anything bad to happen because of the conditions that we had and what we perceived them to be. The other thing is this kind of drive to act. We are in jobs where we get paid to act, and we get paid to move forward and to press forward. And in this case, did we really need to go up the hill to fight fire, or could we have just waited for it to come down here? I would say now in hindsight, we probably could have just waited for it to come down here. What did we gain by a couple hundred yards of brush? Probably nothing. But we always have this feeling that we need to do something. And I think that's okay, and I think that's who we are, but just make sure what we're doing makes sense. Fireground speed without thought is just running. I always want to be thinking and moving forward with purpose. We couldn't see the main body of fire. I think that was a problem. We also were trying to enact a tactic with limited resources. Could we have waited for additional resources? I think so. The biggest thing I've learned from this is that at the time, we were not a department that shared our stories much. In fact, we didn't talk about this ever again. It happened, the two of us learned, and it didn't get talked about. And it's different now. I think this generation, and I think this fire department now and this industry is sharing more than ever, and I think that's great. We have to share our stories. We learn best from our own experiences, and we learn second best from the experience of others. So I want to encourage you, when something happens, share your story. I know sometimes it feels like nobody's listening, and that's okay, it doesn't matter. You only have to impact two people, yourself and one other person. If you impact yourself and you change yourself, you got better. If you impact another person, just one other person, not only did they get better, but they're going to take your message on and impact another person, and so on and so forth. We have to share the stories. We have to share the learning, and we have to continue to learn. If you're not training every day, you're failing every day. So get out there and train, get out and share the stories, get out there and love the job, do a good job, enjoy the job, and keep getting better every day. Have a good shift.